are engaging in the practice of the science of combining the art and science of our powerful transforming teachings, science of mind, to change and use, to actually use in our lives. And why do I say practice? Because it involves both the art and the science. And the qualities of art are fluid, they're creative, they are exciting, they are energetic, and they're always alive. And then we have science, which is provable, repeatable, systematic, reliable, because this spiritual teaching is surely based on science as well as on spiritual principles and art. So it's both, it's provable. Scientists are proving it, but they can't discover what they've been trying to discover, and that's God, because it's undiscoverable, I believe. It's all consciousness, right? It's all consciousness, and trying to put that into definitive terms can be really, I guess, challenging, but not for us, because we have faith. We know that there's a power for good, and that power is always operating in our lives for us and as us. So why do I say practice then? It's because we have to repeat these things until we live them in our daily lives. And this month, we're practicing both of these aspects in the context of a current issue or challenge you might be having. So, we asked you last week to bring in a challenge or an issue, something that you might be puzzled or want to make a decision about or are really going through, and bring that for the whole month. Today, our conversation is all about empowering your power. Thank you for that. It's always about that. And for those of you who are savvy in our Science of Mind teachings, you'll say, well, why would I have to empower that which is already operating as power in my life? And that's a paradox, but we really do not need to do anything to empower the power. It really is. It's already there. It's present. It's complete. It is whole. It is perfect. It is ever available. All we need to do is consciously connect, to open up, to allow that subconscious, that infinite race consciousness, that allness to come through to us so we can connect. It's when we just have closed off and we have that tunnel vision. We can't allow the infinite possibilities to come forward. Ernest Holmes told us in this thing called You, he wrote this: the greatest adventure of your life lies in your conscious use of this power. You need not believe in any particular religious system to discover the wellspring of your life. You find it at the center of your own being, in the quiet of the evening, in the stillness of the night, in the dawn of a new day, and in the midst of activity. It's always present, is what he's saying. So today we're going to be looking at this power, or said another way, we're going to be empowering that power to create a conscious connection with the source of all life, with the infinite, to consciously create it. It's there, we talk about it every week, that the infinite source of all good is always present. So our awareness just becomes sharper, becomes clearer, so that we remember, that's the big thing, we remember when we're going through all kinds of situations and challenges that we're not here alone. As it's been said, we are not here alone. There is a power that is so much greater, and we are that power. So, you might ask, where do we start? First and foremost is the willingness in us to change. We must be able to look at the way we are approaching life, the way we are handling our current situations. I can think of a few of my own that I could tweak a lot. Just tweak them. Become more aware of them when they're happening and not just react. Take that pause, that breath, and respond. Things that we think, that we say, the way we behave, and we do this without judgment or criticism of ourselves or others. We just do it to be more fully aligned with the God of our being and with the good that God has in store for us is always good. Be willing to assess whether those things are working or not. There are many things in our lives that are not working, and we continuously repeat them over and over again, expecting that different outcome. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "It may be hard for an egg to turn into a bird, but it would be a jolly sight harder for it to learn to fly while remaining an egg." We are like the egg at present, and we cannot go on indefinitely being just ordinary, decent eggs. We must learn to hatch. We need to hatch or else we go bad, we go rotten. So, that goes today. Change is about hatching. It's about becoming more, because that's the nature of this divine energy we call God. It's always becoming more of itself. And I love Edwene Gaines anyway, but Edwene Gaines, her work is so incredible. In one aspect, New Thought spiritual prosperity teacher actually, aspect of goal setting process, she says, is particularly appropriate for us here this morning. She suggests that we identify the goals and then pray daily, not for the goals to come true, but for the change within us to allow them to manifest. See, we can get all the goals that we put out there, but that thing within us, the acceptance, the openness, that's what we pray meets the goal. Then it becomes fulfilling. So here's an important question. What did you come in here with this morning that you are willing to change? Perhaps that change means leaving something behind. Perhaps it means having a new thought about your current situation. I'm going to throw out a few that maybe you could relate to some of these. A belief that you're separate from God. That's a belief. It's not the truth. A belief that God is judging you, punishing you. A belief that God will show up for everyone but you. That there is a power that's available to everyone, and we have to remember that. A belief that no matter what you do, it will never be good enough. A lot of that is underneath us. It's like it's ingrained, that good enough thing, that worthy thing. A belief that the world is too far gone for it to ever change. A belief that your problems are caused by the government, your former spouse, your parents, and it goes on, and that's victim consciousness. And we don't ever want to be in that. You can't be empowered if you're a victim. If you're always blaming someone else for everything that's going on in your life, you are a victim. We stand in power and we take responsibility for our lives. That's the power. So, what is it for you today that you are willing to make a change in? Keep that to yourself. And if you have something, repeat this after me. I commit to making a change.
I commit to making a change.
With a little more gusto. I commit to making a change. We have to let the universe universe? No, the universe has some kind of ears. And it's called frequency and vibration. So it is going to vibrate with how we vibrate. So in this thing called You, a great book by Dr. Ernest Holmes, he wrote this: everything you have ever thought, said, done, seen, learned, or experienced, sometimes it has left an imprint, in fact most of the time, upon your subconscious mind. This subconscious also contains memory images of your family life, your ancestral background, and the sum total of what the whole world has thought or believed. These memories are not dead things. See, the memories are still alive. That's what you gotta remember. They're active. So they are always active, but there is more to it than this, he writes. Just as you are being acting upon by your memories, your mind of history, and your environment, you are also being acted upon by the mind of God, which is within and around you. Between this divine presence, the upper part of your being, he says, and your outward experience, there is a field of subconscious reaction which have been gathered up through the years. But you are a creator, not a creature. Today you may be suffering from the effects of the consciousness of the ages and your own beliefs, but today you can begin to change them. We can only change them through our own awareness and our own consciousness. I commit to making a change. Say that over and over again when something comes up or when it doesn't come up. Now we have created, by committing to change, we have created a space, an opening for all the good to flow through us. And believe me, there's so much good. The media and everything around us, the consciousness, human consciousness would have us believe there is nothing good and it's all fear-based. And that's not true. That's not the truth. The truth is there is so much good that in this world and in us and in others that we need to sometimes turn away from that stuff, in fact all the time, and just know that there is always good taking place. And we are people of power. So I want to read this to you. So I ask you to just take a breath and take this in, because this is truth. I know I am one with God. I know that the God within me is perfect. I know that my real nature is spiritual. I know that I exist in a boundless good, in a heavenly state, and in perfect being. I know that my mind is being acted upon by pure spirit. Divine intelligence guides me into peace, happiness, and success, into joy and love and a perfect life. And these words are from Dr. Ernest Holmes on page 61 of this thing called You. So it is having that consciousness that God is in, through, and as everything that gives you the feeling of connection and empowers your power. That's what empowers you, that realization. It is by knowing that spirit is right where you are, always right where you are, and that it is the very essence of your being. Knowing it is at the center as well as the circumference of your life. There's nowhere that God begins and is left off, because we are all God beings. We are all God beings. So all that power is our power. And then there are these words from Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes, that really are at the crux of our work this morning. He writes, I must set myself right with the universe. I must find the way back to the central fire. If I am to be warmed, I must find the source. If I am to be supplied, I must be like God. If I wish to realize God's Spirit in my life, must be like God if I wish to realize God's Spirit in my life. Pretty bold statement, and very true. Very true. There's a whole sermon in that, which we'll save for another week. So, what do we need to get there? We are there already, but what do we need? We need the faith of God, not the faith in God. That little word changes everything, because in implies separation, but the faith of God is absolute. So we have the faith of God. As Jesus said, all things whatsoever ye pray and ask for, believe ye receive them, and ye shall receive them. It is the emotion of completion that brings us to the faith of God, rather than just that faith in God. In your consciousness, in your heart, and in your mind, recognize that God's work is done. It's always been done. It's done, right? It was done in the beginning, and 2 times 2 was always 4, but it was up to us to actually learn that and to discover that that is a spiritual and a truth. It's an absolute truth. And it becomes functional in our life in proportion to our awareness of that principle. The telephone, airplane, laser, you name it, have always been there. They've always been in the atmosphere, in the ethos. Like we say, electricity's always been there. God did not have to recreate these things, but we had to open up to receive it. We had to have vessels or a human mind to comprehend it and put it into use. The principle has always existed. And we need to learn how to open to this spiritual realm, to know that our needs are always taken care of. Our good is always supplied. God's work is done, finished, and complete. It's ever unfolding itself, however, into our conscious awareness in proportion to how we learn the truth and to bring ourselves into harmony with that truth. And the truth is, we are beings of the light. That is the truth. We are capable of infinite potential. That is the truth. The truth is, we truly are complete and whole. But we have to really embody that and embrace that and live that. In every moment, in every experience, make a conscious choice of how you will respond. Make a choice to know that God's perfection is already finished, is already done, it's present within us. And that you are a vehicle through which this good, this incredible power can move through. I have to repeat this every week because I have to hear it also every week, that I am a powerful being. Nobody has control over me. And that is the truth. Make that choice today. Make it today. And you will have empowered your power. I want to leave you with a final quote and then a story that summarizes everything that we have spoke about. So this quote also, I'm doing Ernest Holmes today, comes from Science of Mind, page 151. So he writes this: the secret of spiritual power lies in a consciousness of one's union with the whole and of the availability of good. I'll repeat that again. The secret of spiritual power lies in the consciousness of one's union with the whole and of the availability of good. And the story it's a true story, is of a young bride named Thelma Thompson who went to live with her husband, who was stationed in a U.S. training camp near the Mojave Desert in California during World War II. From the first day, she hated that place. She hated the dust, sounds awful, the loneliness, the tiny shack in which her and her husband lived, the unbearable heat, 125 degrees in the shade of a cactus, and the relentless wind. There was no one she could talk to but the native people who did not speak English. She was quite sure that she was in a living hell, and it wasn't about to change. This was her life. Finally, she was utterly wretched and decided to write to her father and told him she was coming home. She just couldn't take it anymore. Her father answered her letter with just 2 lines. Just said 2 lines. 2 lines which Thelma says will always sing in her memory and which completely altered her life. He wrote, 2 men look out the prison bar. One sees mud and the other sees the stars. According to Thelma, she read those 2 lines over and over again. One sees mud and the other sees the stars. There were always a choice. She determined to find the good in her situation, and she made up her mind to look for the stars. In other words, she decided to change. She made up her mind to approach life with a sense of personal power and trust that there was a reason for all that was happening. And that reason, at its heart, was compassionate and good. That was her choice. Tentatively, she reached out to the native people, and to her surprise, they received her warmly. She made overtures towards friendship, and she showed an interest in their arts, the weaving and the pottery, and all the wonderful things they were creating. They gave her presents. They gave her the best presents, the ones they didn't sell to the tourists. They gave them to her. She studied until she became an expert in the various forms of cactus and yuccas and the Joshua trees. She learned about prairie dogs, watched for desert sunsets, and hunted for seashells that had been left there when this was an ocean floor. The Mojave Desert didn't change. The native people did not change. The wind still blew, and the temperature was still 125 degrees, and the tiny shack was still cramped with her and her husband. But over time, none of that seemed to bother her anymore, because Thelma had empowered her power. And by doing that, she transformed a wretched experience into what she later described as the most exciting adventure of her life. Instead of wallowing in self-pity, she wrote a book, a novel, Under the Desert, about the desert, which was published under the title Bright Ramparts, which brought her a little bit of success and personal satisfaction. She looked out of her self-made prison and chose to see the stars instead of the mud. We all have that choice. We all have that choice to look for the good in every situation. I don't care how bad it is, there's always a flicker, a glimmer at first of good in it. And then that grows until we actually can see the good, the lesson, whatever you want to call it and feel comfortable with. We look for the stars in life. So it is. Okay.
Oh, there it is.